Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video, we're going to talk about how the dismissive avoidant copes with loneliness and what their relationship is to loneliness as a whole. And if you've been hanging around this channel for a while and haven't subscribed, please do. It would mean a lot to me. And so we're going to talk a little bit about in this video just the relationship dismissive avoidants have as a whole when it comes to loneliness. And the very first thing that's important to keep in mind is dismissive avoidants tend to have like a very repressed relationship to their feelings, which loneliness is a feeling. It's an emotional state. It's also an experience that we can have. It's the experience of being lonely or being alone. But really, we interpret that through our feeling state. And because dismissive avoidants tend to push their feelings down, they suppress their emotions around loneliness almost far enough down where it's like unconscious, not even just subconscious. And what this does is it creates sort of this really unique challenge that the dismissive avoidant has. Number one, they won't fully recognize when they feel lonely. And that leads to number two, they will often be in a state of coping from something they don't even realize they're experiencing. And there's this tertiary layer that then sort of boils over top of this, which is that dismissive avoidance as well tend to need security and comfort so much and value that so much more than connection, because they have some painful associations with connection and have come to believe, usually because of past trauma, that emotional connection, social connection isn't really going to deeply meet their needs. And so their need for security and comfort will outweigh their need for connection. And so often they also keep themselves boxed in. It's like they keep themselves in prison when they're feeling lonely. They don't even consciously realize they're feeling that way. And then they don't want to move outside of their comfort zone to change that either. So there's a couple of really important things to be aware of when it comes to loneliness as a whole. And one of the first ones is that the quality of our relationships will overpower or outweigh the quantity of our relationships. And when we have a lot of vulnerability in our relationships, we have the ability to be open, to share our inner world, to share our feelings, our needs, our fears with other people around us. And when those people validate those things, respond to them, are present with them when we're sharing, this is how we're building really high quality connections. And you can think of this as being like the antidote to loneliness. Now, of course, we can build that connection in the relationship to ourselves and the relationship to a higher power that we might believe in. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to rely on other people in the same way, but all of our human experience is that we are also wired for connection, and to try to push that away externally and only get those needs met within ourselves is very limiting. To only get those needs met outside of ourselves becomes problematic as well, because if we don't know who we truly are and have a relationship to ourselves, we're going to have a hard time communicating what we need and what we value from relationships outside of us, which can then keep us sort of imprisoned in that loneliness. And that's a really anxious, preoccupied style of loneliness there. But what we can do is, as a dismissive avoidant, you want to first recognize this is often something you're experiencing and in a state of coping with. And you are not consciously feeling that you may experience loneliness because you are in a state of escaping yourself. And I often find dismissive avoidants in their relationship to loneliness are like leaving themselves alone all the time, neglecting their own feelings because that's part of their subconscious comfort zone. They felt neglected in their feelings from childhood. And so we'll often see dismissive avoidants escaping into something. It's like they're always like watching a show or on social media or escaping into the next thing, even when they're like walking or sitting on the bus or train or airplane or whatever it might be. It's like this perpetual state of avoiding the self. And what that does is, even though we distract ourselves from it, we get into this state of like constant coping. And this is part of why DAs are very known for like having their creature comforts. It's like they're trying to find comfort and some kind of familiarity and connection in so many things that help them avoid themselves and not focus on their own feelings, not focus on their emotional state or their needs. And while this maybe something that helped them navigate childhood when they weren't getting their needs met and may have provided some sense of relief, it is a coping mechanism with a lot of strong downsides in life as we move into our adult season of life. And so it's really important to realize that, you know, that is something that isn't fun to experience or to go through. And that is something that requires change and attention. Now, in order to create change and attention, usually what we want to do is do a deeper dive into working through our fears of what it means to connect to begin with. And a lot of the DA fears are fears of vulnerability, fears of being unsafe, fears of having to move outside of their comfort zone, the assumption that they're going to be rejected or that connection isn't going to go well long-term anyway, so why bother? And a lot of these subconscious belief systems exist for the dismissive avoidant, which cause their thought patterns about relationships, the way they feel and emote about relationships and connection, and of course, their actions and behaviors will follow. And so it's really important that dismissive avoidants realize, hey, I can have comfort and security, and I can have emotional connection and quality relationships in my life at the same time. These do not have to be mutually exclusive things. And because we are wired for interdependence as individuals, as human beings, we're wired literally for connection. And we're also wired for independence. We're wired for both of those things, to have a sense of self, a sense of self-identity, and to have that sense of self and identity shared with other people at the same time. And wherever we get too imbalanced down one continuum or the other, that's where we actually run into problems and pain and challenges long-term. So it's really important to realize that this is a part of like the healing process for a dismissive avoidant. And it starts with ending the escape in the relationship to self first. It starts with being able to notice your own feelings, notice your emotions, be there with them, be present with some of your emotional experiences and your needs. And then once you have built a little bit of that relationship to self, to then be able to share that relationship to self with others, share who you truly are, what you truly feel, what you need from other people. And that takes some self-discovery. And I think a lot of dismissive avoidants think that they do so well on their own. And that can be true, but it's almost like they're masters at coping on their own, more so than that they're truly, truly fulfilled emotionally on their own. And they're really great with like their survival needs, but not necessarily their emotional needs. And this is a part of who we are as people. And that's a requirement, is for us to, live a truly fulfilled life, to be able to dive into that part of ourselves, connect to ourselves, see what's going on there emotionally, and be able to communicate about those things and use our emotions as the feedback that they are, to help us navigate our lives more effectively. So there's a lot to unpack here, but some really great steps for dismissive avoidants are to do some self-work, some introspective work on their feelings, get back in touch with their emotions, and do some vulnerability work, and then do exposure work to communicate with other people and to open up a little more vulnerably over time, to create those deeper quality relationships. And if you want to check out some courses for free for 7 days, to help you dive into all of that, you can check out our Dismissive Avoidant Reprogramming course, which actually helps, like there's exercises in there that help you to overcome emotional suppression, numbness, these sorts of things. And then there's actually some exercises in there to do exposure work around vulnerability and relationship to self, which is a type of reprogramming work for the subconscious mind in relationship to self and relationship to others. And also our Overcoming Loneliness course is a whole bunch of different reprogramming tools for loneliness in general as well. So I hope this makes sense. Thank you so much for watching and for being here. Please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video.